2, 1, live.
You're now watching two old farts making noises.
Joe, do you want to know why some businesses succeed and some businesses fail? Why some businesses grow and some businesses don't? That's what this show is all about. Business, business, business.
All right, gentlemen. I'm Michael Maturo, your host of the Lost Dollar Business Club, with our usual guests, David Oldfart and Stephen Oldfart, the two old farts. We'll be talking about business as usual, business about why businesses win, why businesses don't. And here I'm on the road. I'm remote from Penn Station in New York City. So I'm truly a remote worker today.
Which is very cool because that's how this all started, as remote work.
Yeah.
So, but I will say I like the intro. I like that heavy rock stuff. It gets you pumped up, ready to go.
Oh yeah.
I'm very happy with that.
Well, we got a new time. I think that the show's coming out soon. I think it's coming out.
Yes,
on
the
a
show.
Saturday,
So everybody knows.
morning.
Yeah, we're going to. Michael's show will start coming out Saturday morning. It's going to come out. This is going to be sounding funny to a lot of people.
In
North America, it's coming out at 2:00 in the morning, so everybody can get it. But the rest of the world, that's like 8:00 in the morning. Since you have fans globally, we're trying to make it that everybody can kind of watch it on a Saturday morning because we're finding that most of your fans like Saturday morning. So we're going to give them what they want. So Saturday mornings, you can catch Michael's show when you wake up, either on the podcast or you can go ahead and you can catch it here on YouTube. So either way, but when you wake up Saturday mornings from now on, Michael's show will be there. So this will be the first Saturday morning show.
The idea, of course, Michael, was to give some people some get out of bed, wake up music for the
That's
show.
right. That's what that is.
There you go. Or go to play golf music while they're on a podcast.
And it gives them the time. It gives them the time to listen to it when they're not in the work week and when they just want to brush up on their business skills as they're brushing their teeth and getting their day started on Saturday. So this is good.
There you go.
Well, customer experience, we care about what time they watch it.
Yes. We have to care.
So why remote work today then, Michael? Because normally we speak to you when you're in your office.
That's right.
Not today, out and about?
Yeah, not today. So so the scoop is, guys, I have to get my global entry interview in Bowling Green, New York City. And you have to do these interviews every 5 years for the global entry pass, which counts as TSA pre-check. It makes traveling internationally easier. And I highly recommend it, but for US citizens anyway. And I have to get interviewed. But in the meantime, I'll also be meeting with a couple of my friends who live in Soho and Brooklyn. So I'll be doing a whirlwind tour of New York City today before I head back to Albany at 8 p.m. tonight.
Wait, now, are you going to go to Dim Sum Darling today and have lunch with your friends?
Dim Sum Darling is a little too far uptown. I'm sorry to say it.
It's only on 50. It's on 50th Street. You're at 38th. You're at Penn Station.
That's true. I can hit it on the way. I'll have to come back up and do it.
If you happen to go there, you got to take a picture, because Cheryl is actually in Austin this week, so you won't get to meet her. But I want to know what you think of the food, because everybody raves about it. So, and I think it's great because I get to eat it every day. So. So we're very excited about it. So I want to get somebody else's opinion. And so
I got to get over there. I know it. I know. Yeah. I'll do my best to make that happen.
If you can't, don't worry about it. We still love you.
We'll be back. Right.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, I'm just waiting for an airline to give me the tickets and the Marriott or something to book me up for a long weekend, and I'll come fly to New York and go to Dim Sum Darlings. But
there you go. That's where I go every time I'm in New York. I will say this.
Dim Sum Darlings? Yeah, that's right.
Here's what's really funny. That's becoming a commercial. Then we'll get into business. But I will say they cook it because they come up with different dumplings. It's very Singaporean street foodish, but it's some of the best dumplings and dumpling soup I've ever had. And I've traveled the globe, so I'm hooked. So I'm like, this is a good thing.
Dim Sum Darling.
135 West 50th Street in New York City. No bias. There's the logo.
That's right.
So if you go there, tell them two old farts making noises sent you. It'll absolutely do nothing for you, but just tell them. So there you go.
We want them to know.
That's it. Want them to know that somebody watched the show and saw it. There you go.
Yeah.
So very cool. So now let's talk about business.
Yeah. Where are you taking us today, Michael?
Today, we are talking about artificial intelligence and specifically ChatGPT and all the other tools that are out there, all the artificial intelligence tools like Midjourney. These are
Right.
all generative platforms and large language models, they're called. And the point is, in business, I think people are going to be using AI as coworkers in the future, and in the not too far into the future.
Right.
And I
And
know
not
that
only,
Steven's already using
I,
it.
yeah,
yeah, are
we
you
use
could,
it, and I will tell you that there's an article today. This is very apropos in the Financial Times, and it was talking about all these companies are just flooding money into AI and all this other stuff. We've been playing in AI for like the last 10 years, so we're not flooding. We know it. But here's what I find interesting. This is going to turn out. There's going to be companies that do really well, and there's going to be companies that are going to not do well. And this is once again going to go back to crypto algorithms and NFTs, as far as I'm concerned. And it's also going to go back to the Enrons of the world, the Zbests of the world. People are throwing money into it, and what aren't they doing? Due diligence. They're just throwing money into
Right.
it because it's the hot trend right now. Whether it's the
yeah.
Singapore government or Aldrich Horowitz or BlackRock or any of these, that's what they're doing. The same thing they did before, and no one's taking the time to actually, like, the Dutch
Well,
tulip syndrome, right?
yeah.
That's the problem. But
We
I agree,
always talk
everyone's
about the
using it.
due diligence. We always talk
Yep.
about the due diligence and the importance of doing that. Whether you're an employee or a worker who wants to work for a company, you have to do your due diligence about that company, the culture, the finances of the company, the people there, and of
Right.
course the compensation. But yeah, AI, it's a hot topic. But I think the big shift that's happening is that people will be using it as kind of like a colleague or a coworker, and you will eventually have AI instances that are specific to each company, whoever can afford it, so that you can kind of train your own AI for every company that you work for. So I wonder what happens with the training data. Who owns that? Of course, the company, but we've got to think
Michael, can
about
I,
how to work with AI.
Michael, can I do my due diligence then and ask you now?
Yes.
Are you concerned? Are you concerned about your own job then? Because I mean, you're in the remote sphere for
Yeah.
many years.
Yeah.
Are you going? Is this? Are you now the proverbial turkey that's going to vote for Christmas or
Well, what I'm thinking
or
about is as as a
Thanksgiving?
sales
I should say in the US.
as a sales engineer who's yeah, I got the reference though, but yeah, Thanksgiving. As a sales engineer and having been one for 8 years now and selling software for 15 years, I'm definitely interested in using AI to be more productive at my job, because it's always going to be about everyone's worth is based on their productivity to society, and people who use artificial intelligence to give them more ideas or give them a starting point to summarize data or ask to get data that and summarize data that they wouldn't otherwise have, look at competitor lists, do some basic research that of course you have to verify, but using the tools to be better at my job, yes, that's very much on my mind. And I think it should be on the mind of most information workers, people who are doing things in marketing and sales, because these models are really powerful. Even if they're being refined, this is still very early days, don't you think?
I think
Yeah,
it isn't. I think it is and it isn't. I think the problem is that once again, humans are stupid and lazy, and they're going to count on AI now to do all their work. Like for a joke, I
Yeah,
went
that's
into
not going to
AI
happen.
and I wrote stuff, and it's like I read all these reports. Like the one college professor said that she doesn't know now if it's being generated by ChatGPT or if the students are
Yeah,
writing it. And one high school student said that he in an interview said, I changed some of the words, that like I would never use. So my teacher didn't know. And he said, I got an A. So a lot of people are doing it. There
right.
was another report that somebody wrote a whole marketing plan. Like, how do I, and it gave whatever. And so people are using it to do their job. So in theory, yes, it's going to, I think down the road, it will replace us because that's what people want. They don't want to do anything. They just want to be paid to do nothing. Right. And I think
well,
Well,
now, I think
I
that's
know
going to be
in
true
the issue.
innovators,
education.
I disagree. I think true
Okay.
innovators don't want to just have the computers do everything. I think the innovators in humanity are the people who see things around them and want to use the tools like AI to make things better. Yeah, I mean it's a little simplistic, but I think there's a group of people who do want to use these tools for the greater good. I mean, even Sam Altman of OpenAI, that's one of their stated values of
Yeah,
of the
but that's
company.
not the average you take it, we're looking at 1% of the 1%. The other 7 billion people on the planet, no. Lazy and stupid. And they don't want to do anything if they don't have to. If they can play more golf, more this, and they can go, I need a marketing plan. Okay. And for a joke the other day, we're looking at opening up a factory in Chicago to manufacture dumplings. Okay. I went in and I said to the AI, I said, what do I need to know about manufacturing dumplings in Chicago, yada, yada, yada. What do you think? And I literally got 60 pages of what it thought and what you should do. It's everything we already knew. So I was like, okay, I was just curious what it would say. But I'm like, now, if I was somebody who didn't know and I had partners who didn't know, and I had to say to them, here's what I think, I could literally give them that. They could read it and they'd be like, you're a genius. No, the computer did it. So I think people are
Yeah,
going
but
to find easy way outs.
it's also being embraced. It's being embraced by education, because what schools and higher education institutes are now saying is, look, it's like the calculator. We tried to ban it.
Right.
You know, you could work it all out in your head, or a slide rule or whatever. Didn't work. Everybody used a calculator. So what they're now saying to a lot of the students, they're saying, okay, it's all right to use the chat.
But that's
GPI.
the problem, though. Now the students are
Nope.
going to be
It's
stupider than they
Well,
already are.
no,
I mean,
because but
they
the
only cheat
compromise
themselves.
is
Isn't that always the case?
exactly, the compromise is that you
Yeah.
have to say that you used it. So
Not everybody's going to do
it's
that, of course.
Yeah, no.
well, yeah, but it's easy enough, isn't it? Because you can see a lot of it is it's early doors, so a lot of it's very mechanical. A lot of it's very, it
But
doesn't
Yeah, but it's
have the human flow in it.
let me
It will do
ask
over
let,
4 or 5
me
years.
ask you this then. Let me ask you this. So some guy 10 years from now is working on his MBA or his doctorate, and he goes
Yeah.
into the chat GPT because now it's right.
open.
He's going to write a thesis or a dissertation, boom, in like a second, because all he's going to do is go clicky, 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 done, and it's going to give it to him. Having students, and they're going to use it anyway, and I get that. And I think educators, they're stupid and lazy as well. Okay, let's full stop. Unless you're at you have an educator like, no, listen, I understand using a calculator for certain things, but I still like to do math on a piece of paper because it's fun. It gets my brain to work, right? Excel's a different story. But if you're supposed to write a report on Moby Dick, or if you're supposed to write a report on The Great Gatsby, or, whatever, To the Bow Tolls, pick a book, and you use GP and you don't even read it. So we're just raising stupider people. And why?
Yeah, but
And
Steve,
so the one,
that's
but the
the
percent,
risk.
and the problem is that the people that aren't stupid are going to they'll do the innovating. At some
well,
point, they're going to get
you
stupid.
remember you had to do all these dissertations. I had to do all these dissertations on, English literature on books.
Right.
Yeah.
So about half of the people that I was doing it with would watch the video.
Well, my day we
And
didn't
they
have
say,
video to do that.
and so
We didn't have video for that. Sorry.
or shorts. You could buy these
Yeah.
books.
Yep. The
Shorts.
crib notes on the
Yeah.
thing. And I get it. It's the same thing to an extent, but you had to still read. And now you don't have to
in
read.
business. Yeah, but in business, is it okay? I mean, it's one thing to take the shortest, the journey of less resistance, right? This is a question for you both. Is it okay to do that in business? Because it may be okay to do it in some businesses, but if you're in the business of putting satellites into space, the size of a fridge, you very much hope that there's a little bit more thought gone into it, other than just asking, ChatGPT what would be the best way to fire a rocket into space. So, where are we at the moment? Because Michael feels it's a tool to be used and embraced, and dear Stephen, who is an old fart like myself, sees it slightly differently.
Well, and granted, Stephen's been tracking this for 10 years, so you've seen the arc and you see what's happening. I think the difference now is that it's so widely accessible that for $20 a month, you can pay for ChatGPT Plus, the latest, fastest model, and get priority access to their features. That's a very low cost of entry for someone who wants to use the language model to improve their job, to translate English to Spanish. If they're translating something, like I had a translation assignment, I used it for that. Yes, you have to trust and verify, but there's a lot you can do with it, and it's now accessible to more people than ever before.
Barnum and Bailey said it best. There's a sucker born every second, and this is how I look at this. If I have an AI company, I'm like, you want to use my ChatGPT? And people are like, yeah, and I'm going to charge you $20 a month. And I'm not saying you're a sucker. I'm just using it as a general, and I'll do my thing. So the point of it is that what ends up happening is I get 10 million people. I'm making 20 million a month, so I don't care what you do with it. College student, high school student, business person. My whole thing is that it's going to stop people from thinking.
Yes,
you know what I mean? And that's where that's the concern. Not you. I know you. You think and you think right, but that's for the most part. If I tell a junior high school student to write something, I want to know your thoughts, your words.
Yes, that's
Tell me something. And if he uses this, then he has no thoughts. He has no words. It's bad enough now that they can't talk to you. They can text you, but they can't talk. They can't press the flesh. They can't do anything unless it involves that stupid
Stephen,
little phone.
Is this not the same debate as I go back to the calculator, because I remember that when I was at when I was in technical
school. This is a little different.
There was an app. It was an app. Is it? I asked myself, is it different? Why? Because I no longer have to think. I no longer have to use my brain. I can just literally.
No. You still have to with a calculator, because I got to know what buttons to push. Like I have to be able to say, like, especially if you're in algebra or geometry and you're using the fancy schmancy with all the sines and cosines and tangents, you still have to know that, right? You have to have a foundation. But with this, I don't have to have a foundation of anything, right? I can literally go in there and go clicky, clicky, clicky,
People are calling prompt crafting and a new art. And
could you explain that, Mike? That's a new one on me, Michael.
Yeah, prompt crafting is the input that you give to these large language models or to any of these models, these AI models, and it's what you say to it that changes the output. So if you give ChatGPT some context, like saying, you are Shakespeare, imagine you are Shakespeare, imagine that you are experiencing 2020, please write a tragic comedy about what's going on in the United States. It can get its mind into that and do that. But that's prompt crafting, which is you have to use the right words to get the output that you're looking for.
But here,
and do that for visual things and video things.
Won't that be the differentiator then going forward? Won't educators be able to say, little Johnny, this is definitely all out of a computer, no thoughts gone into this?
No,
it's so cold.
Because the educators are stupid. The educators are just as stupid as the kids, and that's the problem. Stupid and lazy. Here's we have a live studio audience at this side of the studio, and here's what was just sent to me by somebody in our live studio audience, and we'll talk about that later. The last generation of free thinkers, the last generation dependent on free thinking, right? So there's no more. There's not going to be that anymore because they're going to be so engrossed with this stupid AI. I think it's great, by the way. I'm not against it. I'm all for it, but not for learning.
Again, these sort of sweeping statements, Steve, it happened when we started watching too much TV. It was all going to fry our brains. We weren't going to be any better.
Well, that's true. It did. Look at people today. It did fry your brain.
Facebook did.
Yeah. Short attention span.
And TikTok is doing that as well.
I missed what you said. What did you say?
No, but it's true, right? Short attention span. People can't hold a dialogue. They can't do this. They can't do that. They go into the movies and they're like trying to find a fast forward button because it's like they can go Netflix or whatever and go clicky, 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 clicky. It's like nobody takes the time because they all think, I don't know what, just enjoy. That's why, like when I have a cigar, it's like that's my 1 hour to 2 hour mini holiday. And I don't care what's going on.
We've found now the key.
Yeah.
We've found now. Sorry, Mike. Just this last, but I'll shut up. We've found now the key to solving all educational problems: cigars and scotch.
I turned out okay.
You know what? Actually, but actually, if you want to make a real case for it, you can, because the reality is, by actually taking time to be a human being, you can be a better human being. And people being plugged into technology all the time, That's a problem because your only medium, your only interface is the technology, which is very limited in its abilities by definition. By definition, it's not as rich as what's happening in real life.
I agree. I I think the biggest issues we're going to have going forward is people are losing the ability to think, and they're losing the ability to put thoughts together, and they're losing the ability to be a human. So, like when I go out with my dog, the only reason I have my phone in my pocket is because her tracking collar ties to my phone. Other than that, I don't pull my phone out. I don't care. She's at the park for an hour or two. We're at the park for an hour or two. When I have my cigar, the phone is in the house. The earbuds are in so I can listen to whatever music I want to listen to. That's it. I don't care. The world can blow. I don't care if the world blows up. I need to be a human being. Like if when I run or row, I don't, my phone's just for the music. That's the difference. And the problem is that the people are going to start this chat GPT. And we did joke, David and I did a couple weeks ago. We put stupid things into the one that does art. And it's cute, but it's not, it's like, I'm not buying it. And this is like, my problem with this is that I'm going to say to some 10-year-old or 12-year-old, did you read this book? He's like, no, I did a book report on it. How'd you do the book report? Because the computer did it. And to David's point, the calculator's a little different when you get into complex calculations that you need somebody that can go faster than a brain, because we don't have a chalkboard 42 miles long, like in Hidden Numbers, right? Those girls, the chalk, it was great. We don't have that. So I can understand a calculator. But for you now to tell a computer to give me my thought, it's no different than when Musk was like, let's put a chip in everybody's head. We should just do that and get it over with, because that's where this is going to take us.
Well, I mean, that is there are lots of people who want this transhumanist future. I am not one of those. Right. But with that said, there is space to use these tools in a responsible way. You're right. There's a lot of educators who are not prepared to teach to this technology and to teach how to use it responsibly, and how to still teach people to think. But if you can't limit something just because it'll be used by the lowest common denominator in a way that's going to rot their brain. You need to trust and teach people how to use these technologies correctly.
But the educators don't even know how to educate just plain history or math. There's a bigger difference, right? They can't even educate English. Right. So I'm a proponent of homeschooling, for the record. Right. So I'm a proponent of beat them until their attitude changes, and then we're okay. But anyway, but my point is like there's no foundation for these kids. Now it's all like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, you got to have a foundation, because if you don't have a foundation, that's a bad thing. And I think we need to be able to teach them, if here's the foundation. And then when you get, let's say when you're a junior or senior in high school, you've got enough of a foundation, or a freshman in university, then yes, this is a great technology for you to use, because it'll expand your mind and hopefully your knowledge. But if some kid in the 5th or 6th, 7th grade starting to use it,
it should be age restricted. Yeah.
Right. And listen, I want them to use like a calculator. If you're 5 years old, you're using a calculator, great. But I don't let a 5-year-old drive a car. And I think we've got to get to a point where it's like, listen, some of this stuff you don't use till a certain age, because your mind and you as a person and you as a human and the rest of it has to fully develop. So when you do this, you can have thought. If you read something and go, well, I don't think that's right. Because right now, these little kids, even most of the adults, read this and they're like, it's right. It's a computer. It knows everything. It's not HAL from the year 2001.
No.
Right?
And it's wrong a lot of the time. People need to realize the tools that they're using. These AI tools are wrong some of the time.
That is true.
Well, let's discuss that after the break.
Oh, that's right. We have a sponsor, so we have to play a commercial. Everybody, it's all of 30 seconds. Don't go away. Play the commercial, David. Yeah, we're gonna have to add
That's
audio
great.
because the people on the
Yeah.
podcast are probably like, "What the
Yeah,
hell? Why is there
we'll
music in
always-
the middle of a show?" So
I'll do a voice. Yeah, I'll do a voiceover. But that music's good, and I love the
like
look
that.
of it, and I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
There
Yeah,
you
it's
go.
good.
So there we have it. There's our
Well,
sponsor, our first sponsor.
Our
first
first
sponsor,
sponsor.
yeah. And
After breaking the 1,000 barrier as a thing, we're up to 2,600 subscribers, and thank you all for that. So
yeah, and
Wow,
it's a work in progress. We are a little business ourselves. We're learning
and we don't use
as we go along.
ChatGPT. So and we don't use
We don't.
ChatGPT.
Yeah,
It's all
we
human,
don't.
all humanly done,
Do-
unfortunately.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
So
Well, there are
but-
other tools. There's a whole other angle. Now we've talked about ChatGPT and creating text and doing essays. That's one thing. But what do you think about using AI to generate images, in response to text, or illustrating stories, or creating advertising? Because that's what people are starting to use it for. And if you're Nushana, my wonderful woman, she says it all lacks soul. That's the one thing that it's obvious that it
And-
lacks soul.
Well,
and
one
I
of
will
the
tell you,
issues-
we did an interview yesterday with an artist. Her first name, and it's going to all of a sudden escape me. What was her first name? Thank you, David.
Hillary.
Hillary. We did an interview with Hillary, and you'll be on March 16th. And what Hillary said, I agree with 1,000%. She said, when an artist paints a painting or draws an etching, you get like the one behind me right there, right? It has the soul of the artist. It has a vibe. It has something. AI has no soul, no vibe. I agree with that 1,000%. I see the AI stuff. It makes me chuckle, but I don't have a connection where I want to own it. The stuff that somebody put their heart and soul into, I agree that there's a whole different
Well, here's
perception to
something
it.
interesting about that. We're talking about AI generated people, right? Because there is an acute shortage of people who can give medical advice, first aid, the very first calls that get made. People got insurance issues, etc., etc. So big insurance companies have been investing now, certainly for the last 4 or 5 years, to try and find a way of being able to answer as many things as they possibly can via little chatbots. And people hate them because it doesn't give them what they want, and they feel disconnected. So you're now seeing this emergence because the AI is able to reproduce a virtual me, for instance, and then
That's scary.
Yeah, I know. Trust me. And that virtual me is sort of the face of the company. It'll be somebody a lot like a cross between George Clooney and a supermodel, I suppose, depending on your preference when you log in.
I'm sorry, it'll be what? You'll be a what? George Clooney and a supermodel? Is that what I just heard? Seriously?
Yeah.
Are you naked on the bear rug finally in the fireplace?
Yes, especially for you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I feel better now.
So I mean, apart from the art side of it, and all these arty-farty people, I mean, they probably bitched about, artists bitched about photography when it came out. So there'll always be something they'll be humping on about. But just by producing, let's say, virtual people, adding that to a customer service aspect of it.
Yes.
So literally, there is a face of the company that you can see. That's good. 5 years that'll be the normal.
And it'll be programmed. It'll be programmed to sound like it speaks to the values of the company, that it speaks to the software, of course. I mean,
and the value of the caller, as well. So if they're slightly stressed, if they're slightly stressed, then it'll be a very calming voice. Or if somebody is a bit unsure about something, it'll be more instructive as to be able to take them to whichever part of the service which the companies want to give them. So on the one side, I'm quite excited about it, to be honest. But
I just think it's inevitable to see.
I like calculators and cameras.
When I was on. I went to one of Shelley Palmer's webinars on an introduction basically to ChatGPT yesterday with some colleagues. And what I came out of that after seeing all of the different tools that are already popping up based off of either visual generative AI or text generative AI, what I came away with was thinking that we're still at least in the business scenario, and I'm sure there are going to be people in the personal scenarios too, but in the business scenario, it will be a regular occurrence to use AI to inform your job and do it better, whatever that means. Because you can do quicker research, for example, that gives you something to start with, or you can summarize text or process numbers in a different way that is different than than the way I would do it.
But however, if I may, that's what the computer's for. It helps me processing, has all this information globally,
Yeah.
right, that I could pull,
Yeah.
but it doesn't write it for me. And that's where I have a problem with AI and
Yeah.
with ChatGPT and whatnot. So having a laptop or having your computer and having
That's
the like the
different. Yeah.
Encyclopedia Britannica or a library at my fingertips, I love that. I can read, I can learn, but what's going to happen is people don't want to learn and people don't want to read. People are stupid. And as people say, fat, lazy, and stupid, right? And that's where the problem is. And I'm not saying
Well,
the whole
but
population, but there's going to be 1 or 2%
that's a
of
human
people that
problem.
aren't.
That's a human
Right.
problem, though.
But not every
It's not a
human's that way. It's
technology
just,
problem.
and I don't care if you're rich or poor or in the middle. Everybody's that way, right? I like reading. I like to know. ChatGPT right now to me is a fun little tool to ask stupid little questions. You go, oh, that's cute. I like what you're answering. Or it says, I don't understand your question. Like I said, what do you think of two old farts making noises? It goes, I don't have enough information, right?
Yeah.
And I laughed. I'm like, well, then go get it. So
Yeah.
it's so why don't you know? So it's sort of like, okay, but I don't want to grow up people that are stupid, and that's where
I entered a similar thing about 2 old farts, and it said to me,
Right.
I was still doing an entertainment program, and it said, this is Bing, by the way, and Bing said, "Oh, will you be hosting a show where they make farting noises?" Okay, well,
Oh no.
maybe.
That's a new
So,
show. It's been
That's
planned.
a new show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a spin-off.
But
That's a
anybody who
spin-off.
has any comments about what we're talking about today, we all have our different views. We all feel very strongly about different bits and pieces. We're all opinionated, which is what the whole of the very core of the Lost Dollar Business Club is about. Standing up for what you think is right in business and the way forward. Got anything to say about it? Put the comments below.
That's right.
We're
Is this
interested in
live
your
now? Are we
feedback.
doing live comments now?
No, we're not, but we can pick them up and
We can pick them
use
up
them for the
afterward.
next
That's
show.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
What we will do later this year is at some point we will make an announcement and we'll do a live show on a Saturday. And then this way all
That'd
your
be
fans
amazing,
can
yeah.
show up on a Saturday and they can ask questions and do whatever, and we'll do that for an hour or two, but we'll wait until
You can imagine them all
Yeah,
have
we'll get to a critical
the
mass.
mobile telephone in one hand and the golf club in the other.
and not only that, but they'll be on ChatGPT asking questions to ask us. So that in itself will be interesting. So, the tool of partial. But no, I think I like where AI can go. I like that it could be backup systems for airplanes and cars and but once it's fully involved, like there's no such thing yet as a self-driving car.
Stephen,
But I like all that.
are you now confessing to the fact that you're not a dinosaur then? Is that
I'm not a dinosaur. I mean, I was here when they were around. They were very nice. But I was here the day after the Earth cooled. It's very cool.
I mean,
I
agree with you that we're back to the .com. We're back to the NFT, all this bubble,
Right.
and there's all this money being plumped in. But this has a little bit more substance, I think, because people have been investing in this for years, as you well know. So,
and quantum computing is also getting, or quantum
Oh, yeah.
competency, whatever they're
Glad you
calling it
brought
now,
that
is also getting to a point where in the next 3 to 5 years I think it's going to be more mainstream, and we've been looking at that for the last 10 years as well. So I think when that and AI get together, I think then you'll have something that's even more spectacular than today. But once again, I think putting the technology in cars and planes and whatever to keep people safe, I like. Keeping it in built safe. For kids writing a paper, and once again go back to, you have to make sure that you develop them first before you can set them loose, because if not, when they're an adult, and if for some reason the technology crashes, what do? They can't think. And that's the issue, right? It's like I meet adults today that cannot think. They can't get out of their own way, and that's a problem. So
we don't want a lost generation. That's what we're concerned
we already
about.
have that though. If you're under 40, let's say, you're already a lost. Most people are the lost yet, right? They too much technology, they don't think. I think like David generation, maybe the one right after ours. Like I was born in the 60s, granted the year 60. And the kids that were born maybe in the 70s and maybe the very early 80s, they, I think,
I'm glad I still get in that
taught to
cusp.
think. There you go, right?
No,
They
but you know
still
what
had
it
to
is?
think.
It's because they grew up at a time where there wasn't the technology.
Correct. And we had to think.
And you had to think. Yeah.
And you went out and played and you had to interact with people. You had to do all this. And now they're all stuck behind X.
But they're not.
And
but
it's
you have to
bad.
think. But they're okay. So maybe is that the majority of young people today, that they're stuck in their technology? That's true.
I think it's Stephen's view on the world that everybody's stuck behind the technology.
No, if you look at any of the research, it's all the same thing. All the kids.
He says, here we are, look, two old farts stuck behind all this technology. You know, telling the world the world was a better place when it didn't exist. So
first of all, let me just say this: the technology is a better world only because two old farts making noises has an entertainment channel.
Exists.
That's the only reason. That's the only reason that the world's a better place, and we can bring the Lost Dollar Business Club. That's why. Other than that, poo-poo on technology, self-driving, all crap. No, I'm just kidding. So, but I mean, I think as we go further down the road, I think it'll be good. But I'm going to go back to, you have to let young people, and whether they're from 0 to say 15 or 16 or 18 or whenever they say their brains develop, let them develop. You can't keep saying, look, we're going to make it easy. Stop making it easier for these little shits. Okay, enough is enough. Like, stop coddling them. I almost wish we were back, like when I was a kid, if you were like, yeah, slap, I'm good with that, because we all turned out okay. Now these little, whatevers are like, my mommy said I'm special. Your mommy's an idiot, your daddy's an idiot, and you're not special. You suck. And when they don't know what to do with that, it's like, but you still suck. The schools tell them they're special. Stop telling them they're special. Let's go back to teaching them values. Let's go back to teaching them manners. Let's go back to teaching them history and math and writing and all the basics, and go from there.
This unfortunately has to be applied to entire generations, not just the young people of today, but
unfortunately,
it's pervasive. It's pervasive enough that if you don't remember the phrase, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? If
Correct.
you don't use your brain, you lose it. That's exactly what happens. So it's not enough just to imbue the values in young people. We have to do that with adults too, to use these technologies responsibly. I shouldn't expect a colleague to do everything, to write his code and to do all his thinking for him through an AI. That's a problem. But that's only a problem because we have to set the boundaries and say that it's a problem. So, because it's going to be out there. The tools are out there.
And now with that, we're going to have to say, okay, now how do we make it better and how to use it responsible? Like guys at our age, like Michael, we're like, we can use this stuff. Like we already know how to think, we can read, we can write, we can do all of it. So using it right now for me is kind of cute, because the stuff I'm asking, even like I said, the business question, it came back with stuff. I'm like, I know all this stuff.
But
we're good.
Thank
you. So it wasn't anything it didn't tell me. But if now someone said, write me write a report or write an article, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to write. Okay, well, write an article on why I think blah, blah, blah. And it sticks out, 8 paragraphs, and I send it to someone like, this is great. All I did is ask a question. So once again, it goes back to, are we going to start paying now AI royalties on what they write? Am I going to pay AI royalties on what it paints? So it's you're going to start getting into that, and then down the road, mark my words, someone's going to say, is AI actually alive, and does it need to be representative? And they're getting into that already. So it's going to be very interesting to see in 10 years what happens with Hollywood if an AI writes a script and it's produced.
Well, AI
who gets
actors,
paid?
It'll be all AI. It'll all be AI generated scripts, AI generated visuals.
Right.
Yeah.
And I used to have a friend used to say,
we as humans have to have this conversation. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But no. And I used to have a friend that says, he goes, who's to say we're not AI? We're just this generation of AI. And he said, no, but you don't know. Think about
it. We don't actually know, but we do have a substrate that we exist on, a biological substrate that computers and AI don't have.
But not yet. Not yet. Who's to say that they won't exist that way? I just saw something 2 days ago. It was either an FT or The Economist. They're going to put human brain cells in an AI now. And I'm like, okay, so to your point that they don't have, soon It will have,
Soon.
because that's what we're trying to do, right? So you won't know the difference when you meet someone if it's
Right.
flesh and blood, as we like to call it, or if it's AI flesh and blood. And
Yeah.
that's where we're heading. The symbiotic, which is not scary,
Well,
just
we have to be
interesting.
very careful. We have to be very careful with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
Well, look,
all
guys,
right, more to come. More
I
to
know,
come.
I know
Yeah.
where we're heading, unfortunately. So,
but
yeah.
he's got to go to the loo. Michael's going to go to the global thing, and I'm going to go have a scotch and cigar and ponder the end of the world the
Yes.
way we know it. And then I'm going to go back to Pluto, where everything is perfect and runs safe, and big super
That's right.
highways for big supercars.